towards the basket, misses one.
Well, hello once again, and welcome to another episode of the now award-winning Inside IUE Sports Show. I'm your host, Caleb Gillock, and we've got another great show all the way for you here today. And joining me first to talk about track and field is Ashley Toshlag. Ashley, thanks for joining me today.
No problem.
Well, it's been a little bit of an interesting spring season for you guys out on the track, but how's it been overall?
It's been great. We've been able to run a lot of PRs this season and place well at conference. And it's just been a great season.
Well, you mentioned conference. Go ahead and recap the conference meet a little bit for us.
Conference, for a team, we placed a lot more than we did last year. We got a lot more top 3 finishers this year, and so I'm just really proud of everybody. And then I placed top 3 in the 5K, and I've never done that before, so it was really exciting.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes, as that one turned out to be a little interesting for you, I think. But how do you feel about the season as a whole, though?
As a season as a whole, I'm really excited for our team and for myself. We have gotten a lot of PRs that I think a lot of us have never realized we would actually be able to get to. And it's really exciting just to see us do well as a team and as individuals.
How do you feel like you progressed, though, from the beginning of the season to this point?
I've progressed well. My time at the beginning of indoor season, I ran a 20-minute 5K, and then now I'm at a 19:04. So it's just really exciting to see our hard work being, just being there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So what class were you again this year?
I'm a sophomore.
You're a sophomore. So you've got 2 years left. What are you going to do to improve for next year and the year after that?
I'm going to run more miles. I think getting more distance work in will help. And then just work on doing track workouts and working on my speed will help too.
All right. You also mentioned a few minutes ago setting the school record in the 5K. Tell us a little bit about that.
Setting the school record in the 5K was awesome because it wasn't the greatest weather outside. It was snowing.
Okay.
And it was 20 degrees. And so just to be able to go outside and run in that type of weather but still set a school record and almost break 19 is just amazing to me.
All right. Well, you also set the school record of the 1500. Recap that race for us.
So the 1500 is not the race I technically run a lot. So it was nerve-wracking going into the race because I get nervous the shorter the distance I go, but I just told myself to stay with the group of girls in the front, and then when I finally felt good enough to go, I would go, and that's how I ran the 1500. And I made sure my splits were even, and that was the hardest part, but it was also the best part because it made it easier to run it.
Okay. Well, we talked about the snow in that 5K race, but it's been a really interesting spring around here with the way that the weather has been. How has that affected the meets this spring, do you think?
It's affected it a little bit. I try not to play weather into races or into practices as much, but it's affected how we did practices a lot because sometimes we would practice on the treadmills, and for a long distance runner to practice on the treadmills is kind of hard on our body. But it's also nice that we still have that to practice on instead of going outside and running on ice.
Right. Well, when you take somebody like you, a distance runner, where you are practicing on a treadmill, you can set the treadmill on speed and cruise, but you can't necessarily do that when you're out on the track. So how does that kind of go from treadmill to the track? How does that work?
On the treadmill, we would set it to our pace that we would run outside, and to me, treadmills are a lot harder than the track workouts. And so sometimes when I would run a treadmill workout and it would be not as fast of a pace that I feel like I could run outside, I think it would still help me. Because there was one workout where I I know my speed was set on a 9 point something, and I would do that for like 3 minutes, and it really did help me. And when I went outside and I did a similar workout, I was actually a little bit faster outside, but it was still good. It was still a good workout. It was still hard for me.
All right. Well, one thing I think a lot of times people forget about with college student athletes is that there is life outside of that sport. So for you, you've got class, and I'm sure you've got a job too, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance, track, academics, and a job?
Well, I'm lucky enough that I have a really good boss that is lenient on days where I don't have to work and stuff. So I tell him the days in advance that I need to miss, and then he's like, okay, and he'll schedule around it. And I usually just work the weekends. And then for classes, it's easy with the schedule we have to get our homework done and to study and everything. So our coaches and my boss make it easy to have life outside of our sport.
Oh, it's got to be nice to have people around you that support you in that way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you are halfway through your college career now. How's it been so far?
It's been awesome. I've got to experience a lot that I never really thought I would ever experience with being a college athlete and just being in college in general. So I'm very thankful for everything IU East has given me an opportunity to do.
All right. Well, what's the plans for this summer?
This summer is to get a lot of mileage in and to do core work and strength work.
Okay. Any fun plans, though?
Yeah. I have 8 kayaks, so I'm going kayaking this summer. And then I also have a gold pass to Kings Island, so that's also another thing I'm going to do this summer. And then I'm going to go on lots of hikes and stuff like that. I like to be outdoors.
Yeah. So that sounds like a fun summer ahead. But all right. Well, anything else you'd like to add today?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, and congratulations on a great season.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it from Ashley Toshlog talking about the outdoor track and field season and her accomplishments, as well as her academic career here at IU East. We'll take a quick break and be right back with more Inside IU East Sports.
The leaders of First Bank Richmond encourage their employees to give their best effort towards serving the community. One organization very dear to many First Bank Richmond employees is the Third Grade Reading Academy. First Bank staff volunteers hundreds of hours and even host Academy students on site. Doing great things together stands for First Bank's commitment to continue doing all they can to make life better for their customers and our community. First Bank Richmond and you, doing great things together.
And welcome back to Inside IU East Sports. It's time to talk golf now, and in studio with me, two-time national tournament qualifier Bree Nowak. Thanks for joining me today, Bree.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I mentioned you get to go again. You went your freshman year. Last year you didn't make it, but back this year, how's it feel?
It feels great, honestly. It's kind of a letdown from last year, so this year's feels really good.
All right, well, like we talked about before we went on the air, at least that gave you something to work for this year, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit more fire, I guess, to get better, but yeah, it's great feeling to be back in this position.
Sure. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the conference meet. How did that go?
It was pretty brutal, honestly. It was very cold. It was snowing on us the first day. We got pulled off because we couldn't even see down the fairway. If you were to hit a ball, you would have no idea where it was, or couldn't even find it because there was so much snow on the ground. But finally got 18 holes in, and so we shortened it from 27. But got 18 holes in, and the next day was very cold as well, but no snow. So we were sent off and got another 18 holes in, so we got the tournament to at least count with 36 holes. And I didn't perform maybe as well as I wanted to, but in terms of the conditions and everything we had to deal with, it ended up being a good enough score to put me through. So.
Good deal. So you talked about the weather a little bit there, and just like we talked about for track and field, the weather conditions this spring, not the most pleasant at all. How was the weather for you guys this spring?
Yeah, it has been very back and forth. I know in the beginning we didn't get out at all. We were indoors for a large majority of our practices, and then had a few days where it spoiled us. It was really nice. We would go out, and then just went back to being super cold. And if it wasn't cold, it was raining, and if it wasn't raining, it was super cold. So,
right.
But those practices outside and those conditions probably helped us a lot for conference as well too. Just maybe getting a little bit more accustomed or how our game and our ball flight's going to react in those type of conditions definitely helped us at conference. So.
Sure. Well, talk about the playoff that determined medalists. From what I understand, it was kind of a scramble. How did that whole process work?
Yeah, so I believe it started in 17th hole. That's where we evened up. And then 18, going into 18, had 2 putts to win. Couldn't get it done. But then we went up to the playoff. And, yeah, that luckily this time we kind of had an idea. Kyle had mentioned to me that we were tied and that we'd probably end up going to a playoff. So I just went straight to the range because I didn't like the way I finished up. So I wanted to kind of get that taste out of my mouth. And so we went to the range and then head off to the first hole, tied the first hole, went to the second hole, and ended up getting the job done in that hole. So
there you go. All right, well, go ahead and recap the spring season for us for the team as a whole first, and then we'll talk about you.
As a team, it was, I think, pretty up and down. I guess we struggled with putting a full team performance together. We've had a few girls go really low and play really well for themselves, and then we couldn't get kind of the well-rounded aspect. But I think a lot of people struggled this year, a lot of teams, probably due to the conditions that we've had and like our practice conditions and stuff. But it's still promising to see that a lot of girls did improve or did play well in some tournaments. We just have to focus on coming together as a team and putting together 5 solid performances instead of maybe just a couple each time.
What do you think it's going to take to get to that well-rounded aspect that you as the leader of the team would like to see?
I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. We're building confidence. I think that's a key. We have quite a bit of freshmen that are going to be sophomores next year, and even from the beginning of the year to this conference tournament, they've gained so much confidence and so they improved their abilities so much that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can produce next year. And we have a couple girls coming in that are really good too as well. So I'm hoping that that will help boost us up and really help us put together solid performances next year.
All right. Well, there's a full month between the conference meet and the national tournament. What's practice like for you right now, and what are you doing in preparation for a few weeks from now?
Honestly, it's a little bit more individualized because it is just me, but I'll head out for a couple hours each day and focus on things that didn't work well at conference or haven't been working well, I guess, and a lot of that's just putting. I really need to get better on the greens and around the greens. So that's kind of been my focus, and then I'll just try to maintain my other strengths, my full swing, and also trying to develop a little better decision making as well. I'd probably go with riskier decisions than I should at some point, and I think at conference I definitely showed that kind of slow and steady definitely wins the race. You don't have to pin seek everywhere, you know, and bring yourself in positions that you don't want to be in. So definitely learning about that as well.
Well, think back to 2 years ago at Nationals. Weather was a little bit of an issue there. Rained a lot, if you recall. But what was that experience like for you then, and how do you think that's going to benefit you this time around?
That was great. Honestly, I think going into it, I didn't have a whole lot of confidence being a freshman and running into girls that had been there 3 or 4 years, you know, and but I think being there really helped build confidence. I know that since I'm there before that I can perform just as well as these other girls, especially coming back my second time. So I think I'll be a little bit more relaxed. There's no way to hop on that tee completely relaxed, but have a little bit more confidence in my ability and be able to perform a little bit better off the start.
So you think that previous experience will be beneficial to you this time? Then?
For sure. I think it's helped me ever since then. Even regular season, it was a great opportunity and a great experience, and I really enjoyed it.
All right. What are some of your goals for the national tournament?
My goal is to definitely have fun. I want to have fun when I go down there, and I think that goes along with playing well. I always play better when stress-free, having fun, and just relaxing. So especially this being the last tournament, I guess there's no real pressure because you know, this is it. And I'm just hopefully see how that kind of see what kind of results come from that type of mindset. So.
Right. Well, golf is such a mental challenging game because, like you said, if you do start having a bad game, it makes it a little bit frustrating and takes some of the fun out of it. But for you, what's kind of, I guess, the coping mechanism to, get past that and get back into the right frame of mind?
Yeah, it's definitely always a work in progress, but
Sure.
I guess I'd like to always think back on situations where I've maybe played really bad and then came back, and I know it's always possible. You always, you see people make crazy mistakes on tour and then come back and go really low. So there's never an opportunity where you're fully out of a golf tournament, and I think that even happened at conference. I think at one point I was down 4 or 6 strokes at some point, and granted I didn't really know that at the time.
Sure.
But yeah, it's good to know that you can just come back and draw on those past experiences, and it's always great to see your teammates around the golf course too, because I know we're a very lighthearted team, and just looking around, waving at someone in the fairway, from your team really helps lift your spirits and kind of bring you out of focusing on negatives and bring back some positives. So.
All right. While you're gone, you'll also be celebrating a birthday, so that's going to be a nice birthday present, right?
Yep, it'll be my 21st birthday on the 24th, so yeah,
Okay.
it'll be a great experience.
All right. Well, happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
But you've got 1 year left, so what are your plans this summer and for next year?
This summer, after the national tournament, I'll actually be taking my MCAT,
Okay.
5 days after I get back, and hopefully that goes well, and I'll send off my med school applications and hopefully hear back some promising news. But after that, I'll go home and relax finally after
Okay.
then, and definitely still golf. I think that'll be probably the way I relax when I go back home and
Sure.
stuff. So hopefully come back and have really productive senior season, and I hope to kind of develop as a leader over that summer too, because I really want to improve that aspect of my game, because I know we have a lot of good people coming in and we have a lot of great potential, and I want to make sure that we reach that highest
Right.
potential.
All right. Well, anything else you'd like to add today?
No, I'm just super excited for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get down there. So
All right. Well, congratulations and best of luck.
thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. Bree Nowak talking about her qualifying for the NAIA Women's Golf National Tournaments and her season, as well as her future plans as a Red Wolf as well. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Inside IU East Sports after the break.
Life can sometimes be chaotic, and with small children, it can be difficult to get to the doctor.
Hi, Mrs. Towns. How are you doing?
I have a sick little boy right here. I think he might have an ear infection.
With Read Health Now virtual visits, you don't even need to leave your home.
I'll send in a prescription for him.
Quick, easy, convenient.
I didn't want to take the kids out today.
Oh, hey, Doc.
Read Health, right beside you, right now.
And welcome back to Inside IU East Sports. Don't need to adjust your set. Caleb's still here, but we put him in the guest chair. We're going to have a little fun since he's coming to the end of his 4 years as the student voice of the Red Wolves. We're going to put him in the guest chair and talk to him about his experiences here at IU East. I'm Kyle Wright from the IU East Athletic Department, and Caleb, welcome to the guest side of the studio.
Well, thanks, Kyle. I got to say, it's a little weird. I see a whole different side of the studio than what I'm used to seeing, so a little different sitting over here.
Well, you've certainly made plenty of memories for our fans over the last 4 years, so give you one last viewpoint from this side of the chair. But graduation is coming up for you. I'm sure you wish you had $1 for every time you've been asked, has it hit you yet? So I'll tweak that question a bit. When did it hit you that this 4-year experience is starting to come to an end?
I would really have to say in about the last week with finals. That's been the big one. I took a really heavy load this spring to finish up, and yeah, I mean it really this last couple weeks, because now it's time. It's like, okay, you got to start applying for jobs, and when you start going to interviews and everything, it's like, okay, wow, this is getting very real really quick. The real world's almost here.
Well, let's take a trip back in time a little bit. You've been doing this for so long that it's second nature, but when did you get your very, very, very first start or first experiences in broadcasting in PA?
The very first experience I had would have actually been, I believe, my sophomore year of high school. My father and I, we coached my younger sister's basketball team. And part of the deal there is in that league, with me being from Newcastle, every team gets to play in the field house at Newcastle once a year. And they normally just have a volunteer announce the games those days. And at that point, I was trying to figure out which career path I kind of wanted to look at pursuing. And I told my dad, I said, I'd really like to try announcing those games a chance. So he told me to go for it, approach the board about it. So I talked to them, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you. So I gave that a shot. Everybody said I did really well at it, started telling me to talk to the middle school and high school athletic directors, and it just took off from there.
And that can go both ways with people. Some people, they do that for the first time and they don't ever want to touch or even see a microphone again. Others like you're obviously drawn to it. And what did you enjoy about it? What helped you realize that, hey, this is something that I do enjoy and am going to continue to seek out opportunities?
I think at that point, more than anything, it was at that point, once I started to realize that I was decent at doing it, that I was better at announcing than I was at playing basketball. I loved basketball. It was something I was passionate about and played from a young age, but it was a way for me to still be at sporting events, be on the sideline, and still have a major involvement in the game. So I think that was more than anything the major factor that really made me like to do it, because I hated speech classes. I can't tell you the number of times that I went to the nurse's office to get out of doing a speech in high school and ended up getting called back down to class. But public speaking just was not my thing. And then somehow through announcing, starting out doing these games at the middle school and high school level, led to me being able to sit in front of 9,000 fans at a Newcastle basketball game on a Friday night.
And so obviously got a lot of experience at Newcastle, then lots of experience here at IU East. I think your count was something like 260, 270.
272.
272 IU East sporting events. So all that experience, just the things you feel like you've grown as an announcer over the 4 years here through that experience.
It's been crazy to think back to where we were at my freshman year, learning all the different equipment and just seeing how things have evolved from around here from a broadcast standpoint, as far as the equipment and software upgrades we've made for our internet broadcasts, even some of the equipment upgrades that we've had here with WCTV, and just the way the broadcast presentation itself has changed. I think it's been really cool to see. But as far as ways that I personally have grown, I think that I've learned, because coming into this, I only had experience in radio, so going to the TV side of it, it was a little bit of a weird shift for me to do at first. I felt like I still had to call every little single thing that was happening in the game, and I learned over the course of time with the help from people like you and Eric here at WCTV and all the other people that worked with me that the camera is going to tell the story. So it's okay to kind of sketch what's happening, but it's also my job to make the people out on the floor more than a name and a number on a roster. That, those are actual people, they're students out there, give their story. And I think learning how to do that was probably the biggest way that I've grown, and just my on-air professionalism.
Been fortunate for all of us. A lot of success for the IU East teams over the last 4 years. Any particular highlights that stand out? I know there's some obvious ones, and in addition to those, maybe some behind-the-scenes games or maybe some little-known games that you also consider highlights of yours and your time here.
Well, I would say we could go on and on with that list as far as the games that stick out to me. And then again, at the same time, it's been 272 games, so it'd be hard to remember what happened in each and every one of them. But I think kind of going back to my freshman year with the men's basketball team qualifying for the national tournament, women's basketball also went that year. So being able to call, the games that got them to that point. I also think that being able to call the first women's basketball game ever for IU East was a lot of fun, one that will always stick out to me, even though the result of that one may not have been what we favored, but it was cool to be a part of IU East history in that respect. Outside of that, I would say any conference championship or national tournament game that we've had over the last 4 years, I think the one right now that's most vivid to me is the conference volleyball championship this year. The way that they played underdog going into that one, going up against IU Kokomo. They had their work cut out for them. And just the way that the crowd, the atmosphere in the gym, I guess, was kind of what made that one memorable, and just the reaction of everybody. And I'd say another one that sticks out to me from this past year was when Indiana Wesleyan came into town. We played them here at Lincoln Court. I mean, you know as well as I do, you couldn't find a seat. It was standing room only. I couldn't get down from the loft at halftime to go get a drink from the concession stand. So just games like that, and seeing the team succeed and the excitement that they had and the fans had was probably what was most memorable to me.
Okay. People, I hope, appreciate when we're fortunate enough to have WCTV do the games. You can, for the most part, focus on broadcasting. Other games, all those credits you read at the end of a broadcast, well, you're doing them all. You're the producer, director, engineer, play-by-play, sometimes even the camera person. And sometimes the technology doesn't always cooperate. I want to say, obviously it wouldn't have been funny at the time, but any moments where some of that technology didn't cooperate that you're able to look back on and chuckle now?
Yeah, I would say there's a handful of those. Like you said, they weren't necessarily funny at the time, but I think maybe pulled a little bit of hair out, if anything, at the time. But it's funny to look back on now. I mean, just games when we would go into a gym, and because it would have a metal roof, we couldn't get an internet connection to get out of the gym with to get the game up. Other times where we just couldn't get the camera to work. Or another one that sticks out to me was going up to Indiana Tech for volleyball, and I'm getting text messages and messages on Twitter that, hey, broadcast isn't up, it's not working. And I'm like, well, it's showing that we're streaming and I'm talking and you were there with me, and it wasn't working for whatever reason. But yeah, I'd say technical issues aren't necessarily the most fun thing to deal with in the moment. It's funny to look back on later. I would say even the way that we've kind of shifted to being able to use Wi-Fi more frequently. I can remember going to Anderson once for a game, and we ran Ethernet cable from where we were sitting at down to the scores table, up to the upper level, down the concourse, and down a hallway and into a coach's office. I mean, it was just cable runs and stuff, the way that that's changed a little bit. Has taken some of that stress off, especially when traveling. But yeah, it's always interesting, and I think if anything, it ends up being a learning experience because you know how to better prepare for the next time, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Amen to that. So, all right, we're coming into our show then. Good to have you in the guest chair to talk about your experiences here, but still your show, so I'll let you take us to the close.
All right, well, there you have it for another episode of Inside IU Esports. I'm your host, Caleb Gillock. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.